Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished young entrepreneur from Chennai, India, Mr. Karthik Raghavendran. Karthik, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. Glad to be here.
Thank you. Karthik is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Neurostellar, and he's a business world 30 under 30 recognized individual. So Karthik, before we talk about Neurostellar, tell me a little bit about your own journey.
Sure. Okay. So, I'm to define or introduce myself. I'm a kind of a person who's so obsessed with finding truth in things.
Mm-hmm.
So that, finding a pursuit of truth basically made me so curious right from my early school days. So during my high school, I've been into a lot of research internships at universities because of my passion for science, which would eventually take me to the truth and physical world. So I was interested in that as well. And apart from it, I'm a sports person. So I represented my district in cricket, and this represented my district in basketball as well. And I play a lot of sport. I'm a sports enthusiast as well. And a combination of these two things also let me get exposed to a lot of different leadership and team activities, because I was so believing that a team can do a lot more than an individual. So which actually also led me to entrepreneurship, which basically has a vision and pushes the whole team to move towards that vision. So to put it into very simple thing, I would like to call myself a scientist, an entrepreneur, as well as an athlete.
Oh, wonderful. And more power to you. So Karthik, let's talk about Neurostellar now. Yeah. Can you share the story behind the inception of Neurostellar and its mission?
Sure. Okay. So my journey for starting Neurostellar started way back due to my interest in research. So my interest even in high school and college was to do a PhD and become a scientist. So I was doing a lot of research in that aspect. Right. And there was a shift at my fourth year of undergraduation where I felt there were restrictions in terms of creative freedom that I had in research due to my personal experiences with that. And I was craving to find a platform which allows me to freely express my ideas into the world. And at that time, I was introduced to entrepreneurship. Right. And people like Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, when I see the things that they're capable of doing, and to know the history of those things really inspired me that, okay, let's maybe try starting a company and express my ideas in a scientific field, specifically neuroscience, to see what comes out after that. And my interest in neuroscience, specifically starting in neurotech or neuroscience-based startup, comes from my early interest in psychology, in understanding human psyche and human behavior. So one thing that I believed was once you're able to understand human mind better, we'd be able to handle this whole human body better, right? So since everything is connected, so I can live my life better. So that was the initial thing. So it eventually made me to get into psychology as well as neuroscience because it has a physical aspect of it. And eventually to neurotechnology, because as an engineer myself, I use technology to study brain and to understand thoughts and emotions and behavior. So that basically interested me a lot. Amazing. So with all these things put together in a dish, the inception of Neurostellar was basically with one idea. Is there a way where our understanding of human brain and human mind could help myself as well as other individuals unleash their true potential? Right. So if you take any organ, for instance, if you understand the heart better, you'd be able to tweak it better. You read it better, you write it better. Right. So similarly, if you do the same for human brain, and what else or what other possibilities that could open, that blew me away. And we started Neurostellar with one mission, which is basically to make people aware of their mental or cognitive health, as well as improve that and aspire for being a much better human being in terms of these aspects. Yes.
Amazing. Thank you for this response. And Karthik, what are some of the unique solutions that Neurostellar offers in the field of neurotechnology and the brain-computer interface?
Okay. Neurostellar is aspiring to build a mental and cognitive training platform right? And the platform basically has two aspects. One is the platform aspires to be hyper personalized to an individual, also aspires to be highly accurate in also getting aware of their mental states or cognitive states. So which makes us to get into two components. One is we have a wearable device which basically senses different physiological parameters, including a brain activity, heart rate, and breathing rate together in terms of headband, which is basically one. And it's connected to a mobile app where the real magic happens, where the individuals can do two things. Basically, there's a tracking module where an individuals can get aware of their mental state, starting with a state of calm, but it will eventually expand to other mental and cognitive states. So, and the reason for bringing this is because once you get aware, it basically pushes you to get better. And getting better cannot be out of fear. Getting better cannot be out of societal pressures. It has to be with individual awareness, right? So once you get aware, we take the individuals to a training module, which we do it in terms of biofeedback at the start. So it's a personalized training module based on observing your parameters over a point of time. And this training module helps you to improve these parameters, your neural activity, your heart rate, your breath, and try to improve it together so that you get into better states of mental well-being.
Well said. And Karthik, tell me, how are you and your team members contributing to the advancement of brain computer interface?
Got it. Okay. So this has been an interesting concept that has been talked for around, like, I think 10 to 15 years after the evolution of these wearable EEG companies and advancement in BCIs as such, right? I personally believe the future of BCI specifically, which is interacting using your brain with a machine, lies once AI evolves. So I believe the future of BCI is going to be useful when we interact with AI, because AI is going to be super fast at processing and humans are going to be like really slow when compared to AI. So we need another interface which is going to match with AI, and it makes it easy to communicate and interact with AI when we see the evolution of personal companions or personal bots in the future. So that's where I see the future of BCI is, and that's where we are contributing as well, right? So whether we can build an interface which could eventually interact with Neurostellar's AI in the future. Yeah.
And what would you say are some of the real world applications? One you told me about is the headband that you can wear to be able to monitor a lot of the brain activity. But what are some of the other real world applications from a customer perspective that you think you will develop with your technology?
Great question. When it comes to the whole vision of Neurostellar, it's more oriented toward individuals and helping them understand their state of mind and cognition. But eventually, what would that open up, if you ask? When we talk about wellness or having some extraordinary abilities, mental or cognitive abilities, it would eventually cover something called as illness, right? So I see these triology in the same domains: illness, wellness, and extraordinary abilities, right? So once you're able to understand it, you'll be able to even detect mild forms of cognitive disorders or even mental disorders. Even before it emerges into a big tree, you can identify the root, right? Once you identify the root, it would eventually open up applications where individuals or even psychologists and psychiatrists can address it with early interventions so that it doesn't evolve, right? So neuropsychiatry is something that I'm super excited about when it comes to applications of BCI. It's something that we would go towards for sure, right? And apart from that, it also has various applications in other medical conditions, right? So companies like Neuralink or Synchron are working with neurological disorders where people cannot speak, and they use BCIs, invasive BCIs specifically, to kind of communicate with the machine or computer. And BCIs are in different spaces. It's used in defense specifically to improve the cognitive capabilities of soldiers. These are some of the areas that I'm interested in, and I see potential future.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But, if you look at medical devices historically, there have basically been a very few devices that each one of us has at home, from a thermometer to a blood pressure meter to a glucometer to a weighing scale. Now, of course, there's a smart watch which can monitor your various rhythms, etc. And now you're talking about the brain. How do you envision some of these devices that you are developing in Neurostellar impacting daily life in the future?
Okay, great question. So I don't want to term it as medical devices for such, right? So if you look at the spectrum of how this whole healthcare system is, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are, for any of these devices, once you see any physical symptom or there is any abnormality in the brain, you go to a doctor and he images. I'm talking specifically to the brain, right? So once you image or do a neuroimaging, you'd be able to find some patterns, which would be eventually getting treated by a clinician. But if you look at what these devices are, right, it's simply a window into your inner world, right? Like you have a telescope, like you have a satellite, or you have a lot of things going in a macro space, right? So similarly, you have the potential with technology to look at your inner world. But the question is, do only people who are abnormal want to look at your inner world? The answer to me is no. Because once you look at your inner world, that's a whole new world inside you, right? Billions of cells doing some magic and creating some, right? So once you're able to get aware of it, I see the power lies in each and every individual and not in the healthcare as a whole, right? So they get aware, they get more into wellness, they get more into prevention, and the whole lifestyle of individuals might change, right? One simple example that I used to say, even to into my friends and colleagues, is say, if you want to quit smoking, right? Right now, the whole society want to push people to quit smoking by using fear, right? So that's not an effective way, because even still a lot of millions of people are smoking. In case, for example, if someone wants to quit smoke, all you need to do is project your lungs in a mobile app or in a digital world and see what's happening real time, right? And you show what is going to happen, and the AI can really show the individuals what is going to happen. So eventually, once you have that information, for me or for anyone, right, you're going to take better decisions in life. So that's where I see the future of wearable devices, and not just in the medical domain for such.
What a great response. Thank you. And Karthik, are there any ethical considerations that Neurostellar needs to or has taken into account in the development and deployment of these technologies?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to BCIs or any other wearables, data is something that has to be so secure, because you're getting individual data and biological data, right? So we have utmost concern to make sure data privacy is being taken care of. Right from we take every measures and how are we collecting data, how are we saving it in cloud, and are we having all the protective measures before even getting to customers. And that's why we have been spending enough time before getting into the mass market to work on all these things, to make sure we stick to regulations and regulatory frameworks, and then get into the customers. So, I mean, this is something that's for every wearable, and we take utmost concern for it.
Very fascinating. So, a few minutes ago, Karthik, you spoke about how you think that artificial intelligence and BCI will ultimately be able to do iterations which may be faster than the brain. My question is, how do you see neurotechnology and BCI evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. I mean, if you see, there are a lot of developments going on in the field, right? And there's a lot of capital also flowing in the invasive BCI space, like Neuralink and Synchron, and there are a couple of other companies, very renowned companies in the Europe as well. And all these people, including neuroscientists, are trying to understand the brain much deeper, right? So once that happens, there are two possibilities. One is you can build better AI, right? So the whole goal of AI comes from understanding of human brain. So you understand it deeper, you build better AI. And that's a good part as well as a scary part, right? And the second thing, which is going to be advantageous for humans as a species, is, so right now, even in many spaces, because of a lack of understanding of human brain, a lot of even things in the healthcare system are trial and error, a lot of trial and error, right? So this could become more personalized. So we are traveling into an era of precision medicine in terms of neuroscience, neurology, and psychiatry. So understanding it much deeper is going to drastically help in the way we deal with human brain. And I see that as the utmost exciting potential. Yes.
Very, very interesting. So I have time for two more questions for you. You did mention that there is a lot of capital expenditure or capital coming into the sector. But for our viewers and listeners, Tell us a little bit on what is the current state of investment in the neurotech sector.
Got it. So if you see the neurotech sector, we can split it into two things. One is the imaging and EEG clinical grade, all the innovations that happen in the clinical grade. It has been there from 80s, right? So there has been good amount of investments, but majorly on the clinical side. There are two other things which increases the societal attention towards neuroscience. One is the development of fMRI, right? So, and the research that came out of it, right? People are hugely interested in terms of marketing, neuromarketing, and neurology, psychiatry, and a lot of other things, right? To study human brain. fMRI was a big loop. And second thing was the development of consumer EEG devices, right? That brought neuroscience and neurotechnology into the attention of consumers. And that was the big loop, which happened around like 2008-9, with 2 or 3 companies which came into loop. And then there was a huge buzz towards it at the start. And then Neuralink came in with Elon Musk's marketing and stuff. Once he came in, again, there was an investment interest in companies like this. And we now see a lot of investors even reaching out to us and other companies who are interested in to look at neuroscience and neurotech and brain-computer interfaces. So overall, I mean, when you take a relative scale, the investment landscape is pretty nascent still, because there are a lot of things that has to be started out in our industry. But it seems potential, right? So compared to previous 5 years, now we have a lot of investors looking at wearables after the evolution, specifically neuro wearables in that instance.
Very interesting. You know, I've got friends who wear that little ring, which is giving a lot of information, but I'm sure when we start to see your wearables coming in the market, it'll be very interesting. And Karthik, my last question to you, and this is to you as not just as a scientist, but also as an entrepreneur. In your journey in building Neurostellar, what would you say are 3 key lessons you have learned?
Okay. So basically, I mean, the journey of entrepreneurship and Neurostellar has taught a lot in life specifically. So it has a symbiotic relationship, my personal life and Neurostellar, right? So both helps each other and both helps to grow each other. I mean, so one thing that I would say is Neurostellar has definitely increased my the things or the attention towards the societal problems. So that
the attention towards the
you
said attention towards the societal problems,
right? Okay. Societal problems and what can be done by technology, by neurotechnology as such. So obviously it triggers me to spend a lot of time in terms of framing plans and strategies to make sure we have a great society. That's number one. And number two, on a personal level, I mean, even this goes to every entrepreneur out there. I mean, starting a company, managing a team, it gives you a sense of discipline and responsibility. I didn't have it before, right? I had to an extent, but now it's more responsible, and I love that responsibility. It feels great, and yeah, I mean, so this is what I craved for, right? Like I love adventure. And Neurostellar is giving me that adventure that I required. So that might be the third thing.
Well, very interesting. And on that note, and your 3 amazing learnings. One is, you know, because of Neurostellar, you're being now encouraged to start thinking of societal issues and challenges, which as a consumer, I'm hoping you'll be able to address very, very effectively, because the world needs to understand the brain better than it has ever done before. The second you said was that it has brought in a sense of discipline and responsibility, and I would completely endorse that as an entrepreneur myself. You know, how much difference it makes when suddenly you realize that you need to find the money to pay the salaries at the end of each month. And the third one you said was, which I think I've not heard from too many people, but there's also the sense of adventure. And you're so right, as an entrepreneur, it is an adventure. Thank you, Karthik, for speaking to me about your own journey. Thank you for speaking to me about Neurostellar. Thank you for talking to me so many details about BCI and AI as well. I look forward to learning so much more from my conversation with you. Thank you again, and good luck.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. And thanks for inviting me to your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.